2008-2009 mid-year budget review. If you're ready, we can get started.
Yes.
Okay then. The purpose of our work session today is to update the Council on the status of the current budget, that is 2008-2009, and to discuss what that means for the 2009-2010 fiscal year and beyond. When we last met with the Council in December, we reported that the economic climate had deteriorated significantly since May. The nation had been in recession for over a year, and at a local level, we told the Council that it was becoming likely that we would need to significantly change the way we deliver city services in the future. Since that report in December, the economy has continued to deteriorate, and we are now feeling the impact at all levels of government. Now it is increasingly clear that the recession will affect us at a local level. Tonight we will provide our latest economic update, an update on the current year budget, and a recommended approach for the fiscal year 2009-2010 budget. So at this point I'll turn the presentation over to our budget manager, Catherine Chevalier, and she'll take it from there.
Fred. Thank you, Fred. The current economic downturn has now been characterized as the worst recession since the Great Depression. Unemployment continues to rise, and jobs are being lost in both the private and public sectors. As dramatic as the unemployment numbers are, consumer spending is further impacted by workers subject to work furloughs and other pay and benefit reductions. State workers are officially furloughed 1 to 2 days per month. The state is running out of cash and still has a $42 billion budget problem to solve. The state controller has begun issuing IOUs, and the state is now sending 20,000 layoff notices to state workers and expecting unprecedented layoffs. And still, there is no state budget resolution. For the city of Fremont, property tax is our largest revenue. When property tax revenue slows, it has a significant impact on our budget. Our housing market continues to soften. Property transfer transactions through December 2008 are down 4.5% compared to the same time last year, and property transfer tax revenue is down over 31%. Although property transfer tax itself is a relatively small portion of our general fund revenues, it is an early indicator of what we're likely to see in terms of property tax growth. Property values on sales in recent months show that prices in Fremont have fallen since last year at this time. The average transaction value has decreased by 11% since December of 2007. Although these facts do not affect our property tax revenue this year, they will affect next year's assessed valuation and property tax revenue, because we won't see the same level of growth in assessed valuation as we've seen in prior years. As the recession continues, delinquency rates have been increasing, and that trend is expected to continue into next fiscal year. The delinquency rate in Alameda County more than doubled in the past 4 years, from 1.9% in fiscal year 2003-04 to 4.8% in fiscal year 2007-08. Sales tax is the city's second largest revenue source. Because sales tax revenue is volatile, changes in consumer spending can have an almost immediate impact on the city's financial picture. However, due to reporting lags, the information behind the receipt of the revenue is not known for several months. Although we are still not doing as poorly as the state overall and some other cities, the recession is taking a toll on our city. In Fremont, we have seen one auto dealership close, and we have seen several other retailers fail. New auto sales make up 13% of our sales tax base. Consumer spending is down significantly in most areas because this recession is affecting all sectors of our economy. Construction tax revenue, which is a part of our business license tax, has declined dramatically this fiscal year and was down 50% through December of 2008 compared to December of 2007. And without new construction, there's no need for things like appliances and home furnishings. The holiday quarter was reported to be the worst in memory, and we still continue to hear of more layoffs each month. So now that we've presented the economic update, we'll move on to explain how that information plays into our budget update. This slide shows our latest fiscal year 2008-09 revenue and compares what we discussed with the Council in December to our most recent revenue projections. The first column of numbers, labeled First Quarter Update, was presented to Council in December. The second column of numbers, labeled Midyear Review, is our latest revenue projection. The last column shows the difference between our current projection and the one we presented in December. The biggest change you will notice is that sales tax revenue is now projected to be $1.1 million less than our December estimate. This takes into account losses incurred in the third quarter of calendar year 2008, as well as further anticipated decreases in fourth quarter 08 and the remainder of fiscal year 2008-09. Because of the lag time in sales tax reporting, we won't have final information for the holiday quarter until late in March. Our business license tax estimate is reduced by $300,000 solely due to the notable decrease in receipt of construction tax revenue, which we discussed on the previous slide, is down 50% through December. Our largest business license tax billing period is not yet complete, therefore we could see further decreases in this category. In the other category, we are projecting an increase of $100,000 spread among some of the miscellaneous revenues, such as charges for services and fines. We have not revised our property tax revenue estimate for this fiscal year because it is continuing to come in as projected in December. However, if delinquencies continue to increase, that could have a negative effect on this year's revenue. We do believe that property tax revenue will be impacted in fiscal year 9-10 because of continued downward property revaluations and the decline in the median sales price. Transfers in for fiscal year 2008-09 will increase by $500,000 due to reimbursement of startup capital costs from COP proceeds for Fire Station 11 that were initially funded from the general fund. This one-time increase will help soften the blow of the decreases in our revenues for fiscal year 08-09. Overall, the decrease in revenue of $1.3 million and the increase of transfers in amounting to $500,000 mean that we will take in $800,000 less in fiscal year 08-09 than we anticipated in December. Now that we've updated our revenues for the current fiscal year, this slide shows the effects of reduced revenues on our net results of operations and ending fund balance. The first column of numbers shows the numbers that were presented to Council at the first quarter budget update in December. The second column of numbers shows the revised budget using our lower revenue estimates that were just presented. Finally, the column to the far right shows the difference between December and now, which is the additional gap of $800,000 for fiscal year 2008-09. This means that we will need to use more of the $11.2 million budget uncertainty reserve than was anticipated in December. We expect to use $7.6 million instead of $6.8 million. We believe we have not yet seen the worst effects of the recession, and that we need to revise our fiscal year 9-10 revenue estimates downward, based on lower growth assumptions for property tax valuation and a continuing decline in consumer spending. The next slide will show you how reduced revenues affect us for the next 2 fiscal years. And now I'll turn the presentation over to our Finance Director, Harriet Commons.
Thanks, Catherine. This next slide shows the effects of the revised revenue estimates on our 8-9 budget, but then goes a couple of steps further in demonstrating how those reduced revenues and structural deficit carry through to fiscal 9-10 and 10-11. The first 2 columns of numbers were just reviewed in the previous slide, the information for fiscal year 8-9. The next 2 columns are revised budget projections that we believe will occur if we don't take action to correct this structural imbalance. The ongoing net results of operations, which is the green line in the middle of the slide, which is now projected at a deficit of $10.7 million for fiscal 8-9, will grow to $13.1 million in 9-10 and will then increase to $18.5 million in fiscal 2010-11.